Nigeria was once home to rhinos, giraffes, and cheetahs. But sadly, due to habitat destruction and poaching, they have become extinct. On this episode of Great Angle, we take a closer look at the role of the wildlife to the environment and efforts to conserve some endangered species. Welcome. I am Esther Mokariola. Nigeria's Environmental and Regulation Agency rescued a manatee, an endangered species held hostage at Ekwe, Lagos State. The sting operation, led by Nesria alongside Wild Aid and researchers from Nigerian Institute of Oceanography and Marine Research, successfully captured the endangered manatee that had been held captive for a month as its captors searched for buyers. 456 kilograms of ivory and 6.2 tons of pangolin scales from Nigeria has been intercepted in Vietnam. Reports say customs officers at Da Nang Port, Vietnam, took precautionary measures when they spotted yet another consignment labeled as cashew nuts from an African nation. They inspected that shipment and found out it was indeed misdeclared. Nigeria has been heavily implicated in the smuggling of ivory and pangolin scales from Africa to Asia. In the meantime, the Nigerian government has approved the establishment of 10 new national parks across Nigeria to conserve wildlife. Minister of State for the Environment, Sharon Ekazo, says the federal government is committed to protecting, restoring, and promoting sustainable use of the country's biodiversity.
Available reports show that Nigeria has emerged the top transit point in the world for illegal ivory and pangolin scale trafficking out of Africa to Asia. Between 2016 and 2019, more than half of pangolin scales seized globally came from Nigeria. Following this grim picture, a non-profit organization, Wild Aid, launched a public awareness conservation campaign in Nigeria to reduce demand for illegal bushmeat in major urban centers and support enforcement activities to tackle the illegal wildlife trade. Speaking at the occasion, Minister of State for the Environment, Barrister Sharon Ekazo, says the federal government of Nigeria is committed to protecting, restoring, and promoting sustainable biodiversity.
Let people be aware that these species are all endangered and they're going extinct. And also the causes of some of the infectious diseases we're having. You can see we're going through Lassa fever now. It's from animals, rats. We've had Ebola from animals to prevent zoonotic diseases, to keep this animal in the wild.
Health and environment are intrinsically linked. If we have an unhealthy environment, we will become unhealthy. So it's selfish reasons partly, but it's also these incredible animals. When you get the experience of seeing them, it is something which is an incredibly moving experience.
There is an increased contact.
Lagos Commissioner for Health, on his part, says disrupting the delicate balances of nature with our heavy human footprint causes major repercussions, such as severe weather changes and biological threats like COVID and Ebola.
These markets, we are trying to discourage these markets where people go into the forests and just harvest animals without understanding that by taking these animals out of the wild, you are actually reducing their numbers. And when you reduce their numbers, then they gradually go onto the endangered list and they become extinct.
This gentle creature you can see on my arm is a 7-month-old pangolin, but sadly very few of it is left in the wild because it's being poached for its scales rather, and meat. What more can you tell us about this?
The rate at which it's been taken away from nature, it's alarming. If we do not come out en masse to protect our heritage, these animals are going to disappear in our time.
In the meantime, efforts are being made to promote village-raised hybrid chicken as an alternative to illegal bushmeat for suppliers and consumers in Nigeria and across Africa.
Nigeria has been identified as a transit hub for illegal trade in protected species like elephants and pangolins. I had a chat with WildAid's president, Peter Knight, and he believes Nigeria can turn things around and become a regional leader in wildlife protection, which can boost the economy through tourism and safeguard the Nigerian public from zoonotic diseases.
Wildlife are the animals, and in fact trees and plants and birds that make up our planet. Obviously, in this day and age, we have a lot of domesticated animals, things like chickens and things, but wildlife are the original inhabitants of this planet, and now they play an important part in our lives, in keeping us all health and safety wise. And unfortunately, wildlife is getting less and less all the time because of human impact, human taking over of habitat, human hunting. Wildlife is greatly diminished from what it was. Well, every animal has their own niche within an ecosystem, so animals play different roles. You know, pangolins eat ants and termites, lions eat deer and antelope. So every animal has its role within the ecosystem, and if you take one out, the whole system becomes unbalanced, and very often we can't predict what happens when you take that one element out, but it's usually not good. Various levels of extinction for animals, meaning the obliteration of animals. You know, an animal can be literally extinct when there's none left, but it can also be ecologically extinct when there's not enough of that animal to fulfill their role they have played in the ecosystem. So there'll still be some left, but there's not enough of them to fulfill that role. So many animals now are either threatened with extinction or in some cases endangered, which is a higher classification, meaning that their extinction is imminent if we don't do something about it. There are many threats to wildlife. First of all, I think a big one is habitat loss. Probably the largest is habitat loss. That's where human beings have taken over the traditional places where animals lived. We might have chopped down the forest. We might have put crops in an area that was grassland. But human agricultural expansion is largely responsible for a lot of that. There's something called invasive species, which is where we've brought one animal into a different place where it's not traditionally lived. So a number of islands, for example, humans introduced rats, and then the rats might have killed the birds, they might have dig up the eggs of turtles. So invasive species are another big problem. Climate change is also causing extinction as the habitat again changes due to human activities. And then there's direct hunting as well. So whether it's hunting for bushmeat trade, where it's hunting for international trade in things like ivory or pangolin scales, overhunting is a major source of extinction. And of course, extinction is also a natural process in that the dinosaurs became extinct, and many other animals have come extinct. Most animals been on the earth are now extinct. But the extinction rate, the natural rate, is about 1,000 times lower than the one we're experiencing now from human activity. Many people are saying that what we need to do is actually have the people in the cities, and expand the population of cities, not in rural areas. So, ideally, as the human population expands, so we use better agriculture, so we don't need to keep chopping down forests. Chopping down forests can destroy your watershed, it can destroy the water, so have no crops, so it's not sustainable necessarily. So what we really need to do is make better use of the land we have and farm it more efficiently and more effectively, and there are a lot of techniques to do that. But also concentrating people in cities helps as well. That helps in a lot of different areas, so you don't have to have all this extra infrastructure, you don't have to travel around as much. So urbanization can actually help in reducing the environmental impact. And one of the biggest problems we have is very low value subsistence level farming, which is both economically unsustainable and environmentally unsustainable. So people are chopping down forests, using a piece of land for 2 or 3 years, and it no longer is fertile anymore, and they have to chop down another piece of forest. Well, that's not good economics, and it's also not good environmental practice. Well, this is part of a much bigger initiative, which is called 30 by 2030, which is about getting 30% of the world protected by 2030. So this is happening internationally, and we're very glad Nigeria is participating in this. However, just designating an area is really just a start. And what's crucial is that once you designate a protected area, you actually protect it. So that means you have to have rangers, you have to have restrictions on activities, and you have to let the wild be the wild, essentially. And so while these parks have been set up, that really is just the beginning. Whether there's the capability to actually protect those areas and enforce them, have enough rangers, have the right laws in place, is another question. And then in many of these cases, I think these parks have already been degraded. So they're not in a natural wild state, and many of the animals may have disappeared. So hopefully the long-term prospect is to rebuild, rewild as it's called, a process which is going on a very big scale now in Europe, for example, where areas which are turned over to agriculture, now they're trying to turn them back to wilderness because they realize that biodiversity is almost like the immune system of the planet. And if you don't have diversity, you have a disease, and you only have one crop, it can wipe out the whole crop. So more and more countries and governments are recognizing the importance of biodiversity and the importance of protected areas to have these little pockets of wild areas that we can then rebuild from. We are launching the biggest ever campaign in Africa on public awareness of wildlife and nature conservation. And we're doing that with the Ministry of Environment, we're doing it with Customs, we're doing it with the media and a lot of different partners to really revolutionize people's knowledge. So few people here know, for example, there are only 50 lions left in Nigeria. There are only 100 gorillas, cross-river gorillas, of only 300 of that species in the world, 500 elephants. These are really low numbers, and most people in Nigeria have no clue. What we find is when people do know is they do care and they are concerned and they want to try and rectify the situation. So public awareness is going to be crucial. And when it comes to things like the bushmeat trade, where it's people in cities like Lagos that are consuming the illegal bushmeat, it's vital they have the awareness that not only are they leading to the extinction of animals like pangolins, but the people catching the bushmeat are also catching lions and elephants by accident sometimes, and gorillas. And so it's not just the animals you see on sale, it's the other animals caught in the traps set for those animals. So it's really important that people don't consume illegal bushmeat. If you look at the lions, for example, their habitat has shrunk dramatically. So they're now in just Yankari pretty much in the protected area. So they've lost their land and they've lost their prey base because their prey base, the antelope they meet, are being killed by the bushmeat trade. And then they're being caught as a bycatch. Some of them are caught in snares, which are not selective, they catch any animal. So they're facing all these threats at the same time. So it's very, very serious. And what we need to do to help the lions, for example, is secure Yankari and make sure there's no illegal bushmeat going on, because that will take the food of the lions. And then it is possible that lions can be rebuilt, the population can be rebuilt. Because if you can have elephants and lions and big animals like that, you can have a tourism industry around it. And that's obviously huge in places like Kenya and South Africa. And right now in Nigeria, there is nowhere to go and see a wild lion or a wild elephant, but I think that's a dream that we can aspire to. Animals like pangolins, for example, can carry a number of different viruses. Now, when in the wild, those viruses are dormant and it's not a problem and they're not any risk to humans. But when you take them for the bushmeat trade and the animal is taken, it's often mixed with other species, it's often very stressed. Pangolin, for example, is a solitary animal, it's a nocturnal animal. They're all kept together, they're kept in the sunlight, they're kept with other animals. They're very, very stressed. They usually don't have a proper diet. They usually don't have proper amounts of water. And these are ideal conditions that diseases that are latent come out. We all know when we're feeling run down and tired, we're much more likely to get a cold. It's the same case for animals. So these animals have these diseases which are not a problem in the wild. They come out through the wildlife trade. And then people often butcher them in very unhygienic conditions. And the most likely time of transmission is when an animal's being butchered, when its blood is out there. If someone has a cut and they cut into a pangolin, they get blood-to-blood contact, there's a real possibility of disease transmission at that point. And things like monkeys, bats, and pangolins are particularly a high risk from this. They did detect COVID viruses, not COVID-19, but other COVID viruses in pangolins. And so there's a very real possibility of disease transmission. And so when we say keep them wild, keep us safe, if the animal's in the wild, then no risk to human beings. If you bring them into the bushmeat trade, there is a risk of zoonotic disease. Pangolins really don't have any enemies in the wild. Even a lion, when they curl up, they get scared, they curl up in a ball. And when they curl up, these hard scales, I mean, even a lion can't unwrap them. So because of this, pangolins reproduce very, very slowly. So Neil's family only has like one baby every 18 months. So that means that you can't really hunt them without destroying the population. Before we embarked on this campaign, we did a public opinion survey from people that are consuming bushmeat and asked them, why are you consuming bushmeat? And a couple of things came up, 3 factors really came up. One was they thought it had better taste than regular meat, like frozen chicken. It has more gamey flavor. And 2, they knew it didn't have chemicals in it. And they're concerned about chemicals in mass-produced chicken, for example. And so we were looking for projects to say, well, how can we give people something which meets those qualities they're looking for, but is sustainable? And so we were lucky enough to find a project going on here in Nigeria called Noilers, which is Nigerian broilers. And this is a company that's taken a big European chicken and crossbred it with a local Nigerian chicken. So it has the advantages of being much bigger than the local chickens here. It produces more eggs, but it is more disease resistant than, say, a Western chicken. And so this company basically gives the 5-day-old chicks to villagers to rear. So the villagers then take it from the small baby chick to a 4-kilo animal, a very big bird, maybe 3 or 4 times the weight of a regular chicken here. And they rear them in the villages. So they rear them using their vegetable scraps. They eat insects and things like that. So it's an organic, free-range chicken that then can be sold back here in Lagos, which has a lot more flavor than the regular meat. It's totally chemical-free, and it benefits those communities. And so our big hope is that we can work on this project to give people an opportunity, that buyers of bushmeat, they have an alternative that has the same flavor, but is chemical-free, meets those standards, but is sustainable.
Still ahead on Green Angle.
It's all right.
How dangerous or harmless is the wild to man and his environment? More on this just ahead.
Ball python, he was rescued from the bushmeat trade. If you look on his neck, you see the scar.
Wow.
That is where the snare caught him, and they were going to eat him. But I was able to rescue him from the hunter. If you see, that's a scar.
It's where a noose has gone around his neck.
So from where the snare caught him, and they were going to eat him, but I was able to rescue him from the hunters and treated him. In the process of treating him, he got habituated, so we're not releasing him. Instead, we're using him as a teaching aid to help people get over their fear of snakes, because it's this fear of snakes that make people kill snakes on sight. You know, whether they're going to eat them or not, to just kill. And it's dangerous because very soon we're going to wipe them out. They have a role they play in nature. Snakes have lots of usefulness to us that we don't understand. One that I like using to tell people to bring it home. You've heard of Lassa fever. What animal transmits the Lassa fever?
Rats.
What animals does the snake feed on?
Rats.
So we kill all the snakes in our environment, then the rat population will increase, and then they will bring the Lassa fever to our homes, and then you have the disease everywhere. We've been made to believe so many things that are false. I usually tell people 99% of what you heard about snakes are not true. Now, pythons are constrictors, they are not venomous. They constrict their prey and they swallow. And they are only a danger to their prey. And they will only constrict what they can eat. So these guys, they have heat sensing teeth on their mouth. He has sensed that I'm not a prey. So I'm not in any danger at all.
But it has teeth, right?
Yes, it has teeth for catching its prey.
So if it constricts its prey, can't it use its teeth to also do the needful?
No, they use its teeth to catch and hold. Then the body constricts and then they swallow.
So they can't swallow a human being?
This guy, there's no way I would fit in this guy, trust me.
But a bigger python?
Well, a bigger python, but even the very big ones, the rock pythons, they don't usually make prey of humans. Maybe little humans, but not generally. It's usually very strange.
So are you trying to tell me now that snakes are not dangerous to humans?
Well, the snakes attack humans only in self-defense. They think you're going to hurt them, so they want to get the first. So if we learn to let them be, trust me, they will learn to let us be.
So how can I let it be now? By carrying it?
When you see a snake in your yard, just give it a room to escape. It would escape. Just ensure you're not a danger. Don't stand in its path. When snakes bite people, it's either you're surprised the snake and it's trying to defend itself, or it's trying to escape and you're blocking the path that it knows, so it will attack to get away. The main aim is not to attack. If you stand very still, the snake is going to walk by. It's when you move and then it thinks you're going to attack that it does the attack.
carrying a snake.
It's all right.
Jesus
Stay steady.
Christ,
That's
it
great.
feels
That's good.
so...
And you're shaking.
Look at this.
Wow.
Turn to camera. Turn to camera.
Turn to the camera.
Yeah, that's Jake. That's Jake, you can see. Don't mind me with this snake though.
So let's take it a step.
Brilliant. Well done. You all right? Gentle, gentle. Okay. All
You
right.
know, when you carry the snake like this, you're not in any danger at all because you become like a tree. It supports. It's the person who is standing in his front that should
Doing
watch
great.
it. So
Yeah, so I'm a tree right now for this snake. What?
It's all right, it's all right, just don't
sudden
do
movements.
Yeah. It's all right. If you're not comfortable, you take them off. But look, it's perfectly fine. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Speaking in tongues. Another creature that we are wiping out of the system and we're not taking note of, and it's very important, is the insects, the butterflies. Let me ask you, when last did you see a butterfly? You would have to think. Now, the butterflies, the bees, these animals, we are fast wiping them out with our activities. Insecticides. They did a survey and they found that over 60% of the insecticides we used in Nigeria are banned in other countries. These are the countries that produced them initially. They said, no, it's dangerous to the environment and they've stopped it. But we use it here. And we're wiping out the species. There are other cultural methods that we use to get rid of these insects. Not just everything insecticide, because we are harming ourselves when we do that all the time. Cleanliness will reduce the amount of roaches. Roaches, they thrive where it's dirty. So be clean, or your food, whatnot, put them in proper containers, lock them. When they don't see food, they won't reproduce much, they won't convert much. Do you understand? Aside that, their cleanliness will reduce the amount of roaches. Roaches, they thrive where it's dirty. So be clean, or your food, whatnot, put them in proper containers, lock them. When they don't see food, they won't reproduce much, they won't convert much. Do you understand? Aside that, there are some fruits and plants that repel these insects. Trust me. I have citronella plants, I have these lemongrass. I have citronella plants, I have lemongrass. They are natural insect repellents. So you can always use these. And then there are other softer, milder insecticides you can use. It does not have to be the harsh, dangerous one all the time. Animals that keep rodent population down. Even the snakes you're afraid of, there are eagles that prey on them. You know, God created a balance where nothing becomes a nuisance, whether it's useful or not. Nothing becomes a nuisance because everything is balanced. We, the humans, are the only ones that upset the balance. So we should take note of this balance and maintain it. Plant more trees, plant flowers. They give us oxygen. And then they use up the carbon dioxide that we breathe out. So we need actually to have this in our environment around us. And we'll be healthier. We'll be the better for it. If you want to move, slow, deliberate movement.
Slow, deliberate movement.
after-
Slow, deliberate movement.
Yeah, that's great.
Slow.
You are extremely brave.
Yes. I have no choice, do I?
You have a
I
choice.
have to start like a tree. So I am right now literally a tree for Jake, and it seems a little bit cool. Not like I feel a little bit uncomfortable right now, but let me just say I'm fine. I'm fine with Jake on my neck, and it's awesome to know that snakes, they are part of us, and we should care for them and also nurture them when you happen to see them.
And that's about it on this week's edition of Green Angle. Until I come your way next time, remember, together, we can build a sustainable world. I am Esther Makwariela. Bye for now.